I love being awake for night leading into day. I hope you'll come walk with me this morning. I have some things I'd like to think through with you. Good morning. Well, I've been doing a lot of thinking today, and one of the things that I wanted to really share with you is something that goes deeper than just what the lion diet has done for me and what it can do for you, but also a little bit more about the path I was on to get me to this point, to get me to where I even started the diet. Because I know from talking to a lot of you that some of you started doing this diet because of my motivation, and I'm so thankful that I was able to help you do that, because I've heard some wonderful stories about what you've experienced as you've gone on your journey. And I want to be able to help you know a little bit more in depth about this journey that I've been on. And this is gonna cross over some topics that are gonna delve into my Christian faith, but also some secular topics like nihilism and stoicism and other thoughts. I want you to know, whether you believe what I believe or not, we can still have this discussion. And I hope you'll enjoy it with me. I've been using my headphones today because I thought it might give me a little bit better quality sound as I'm walking with you guys. I want to see if hopefully that'll work out for you. How you like that sunrise coming up behind me? I found this new road I haven't walked down before. It was a really pretty walk. Unfortunately, it ended in a private drive, so I had to turn back, and it was too dark to really record anything on the way there, but I'm glad we got a nice sunrise in the back there for a little bit. So anyway, before I started this diet, it wasn't just all of a sudden I decided I need to go ahead and do a diet like this because my gut hurts or I need to lose weight. It was a combination of those things, but those were probably more like mitigating factors that directed me to start here when it came to doing something, was this diet. But I was listening to Jordan Peterson before that, and I listened to my pastor and study the Bible regularly. I'm trying to really figure out, what the heck am I doing here? And if you're in this life, I would hope you're trying to figure out what the heck you're doing here too, because it seems like a lot of us waste our life pursuing things that don't benefit us or anybody around us. And I'd like to be able to change that as far as what I'm doing, and maybe encourage you to do some of the same, because it was that pursuit of what's my purpose here and understanding how to accomplish that purpose. I mean, I understand as a believer, my job is to share Christ with others, and I can only do that if I get myself out of the way, and myself likes to get in the way. There's a Bible verse that I've wrestled with for many years that for some reason, it should be obvious, I think, but it's like a laziness in my head. I've just kept letting it pin me to the mat every time I would wrestle with it. But I'd like to wrestle with it with you a little today, and maybe the verbalization of that will help me solidify it in my own mind. So if you'll indulge me, I'll appreciate it, and hopefully we'll both gain something from this. But here's what the Bible verse says. I brought my wife's cell phone with me today so I could bring up the Bible verse that I'm looking for. Let's see here. All right, the verse is John 12:25. Says, "He who loves his life loses it, and he who hates his life in this world will keep it to eternal life." And a lot of times I've looked at that and been able to easily say, especially before this diet, I could easily say I hated my life in this world. I loved my life with my wife, and I loved some of the interactions I had with people, but for the most part, I found it very detestable. Statements that people make, or thoughts, or evil, vile things that humans do to each other in general. So I'm not trying to single anybody out here. I'm trying to say all of us have felt the negative ramifications of the thoughts of other people hurting us. And it makes it hard to want to get up in the morning and do what you got to do. It makes it hard when you feel like you're just swimming an upstream battle and that there's nothing to be gained from this. But I think one of the problems is not recognizing what it is we're supposed to hate and what it even means to hate something. To hate something simply means to detest it. You know, I don't have hatred toward any other person, but I have hatred toward very negative thinking, or even worse, thinking that leads to nihilism, that can be very destructive of those around those who become nihilist. Because when you think about what this verse is saying, he who hates his life, and the word life is suke, which is where we get the word for psyche. So it's that part of us that's on the inside that we can't really figure out where it is, like where in your body is your soul, your psyche, your suke. Where do the thoughts come from that you have in your head? Where, you know, when you say it just popped into my head, it's kind of hard to say, well, what wellspring brought those thoughts to me, and how come it doesn't happen to my dog? You know, they're not able to communicate with me like that. They just seem to be having emotional responses to everything, but yet we have these thoughts which are unique to humans. So we're dealing with the part of us that thinks in this world, and the part of us that thinks does hate being in situations and around people who oppress our soul and spirit in some way or another. You know, so the Bible's clearly not telling us to hate the life that we have here, as much as we recognize that we're in a hostile environment. Because the world in this situation, there's a couple of words used in the Bible for world in the original languages, and this one happens to be cosmos, which means it deals with the entire entity of being in such a destructive, random, not random, I mean, it's like everything is just floating on molten lava. We live with volcanoes underneath us. We're traveling around the sun. It's chaos and destruction everywhere we look. So it deals with the imperfect. It's beautiful. Creation is beautiful, but it's still very imperfect and very shaky. I mean, we worry about things like, you know, meteors hitting us and all kind of crazy stuff. But you can admit that life is tenuous at best, and it's just the nature of what's around us that's so dangerous. And we hate that. We want safety from it, but hating your life in this world can mean it's dangerous out there. It's really a rough life. There's another verse that contrasts this to really drive that point home even more. And that's Proverbs 29:24, that says, he who is a partner with a thief hates his own life. Because obviously being a partner with a thief is not a good thing. If one of the 10 commandments is thou shalt not steal, and those who steal are thieves, clearly somebody who breaks that commandment hates his own life, and that's a negative context. So God's not telling us to hate our own life. He's telling us to hate the situation that we're in enough that we can find a way to properly deal with it. And we have to let ourselves go to be able to do that. A lot of the things that I remember I've talked about before, that I deal with anger issues, and I'm dealing with those less and less as I've gone through this diet, even though I have a higher sense of aggression, which is interesting. But I don't find myself being as angry at people or situations as I used to, as I've pursued a life that doesn't avoid difficulty, that embraces challenge and the struggle that is life. I found a more relaxed attitude, and I'm able to deal with things that happen that are very upsetting with a much more relaxed mental attitude. And I can tell you it is a lot better for me and those around me that I am not dealing with it the way I was before. And this diet can really help with that, because we're battling flesh already, in that if you want to look at it simply from a scientific standpoint, we know that the gut works like a neural engine, like a brain. And when your gut's out of balance, the number of microbes in there that work like neurons in your brain actually outnumber the neurons in your brain, and they can take control. They can take control over what drives you, what makes you want to eat certain things, what makes you want to put drugs and alcohol in your body, what makes you want to hurt yourself, rather than find a way to have some kind of love and respect for yourself. I mean, if God died for me, he clearly loved me enough to sacrifice his son's life, his life, for my life. I should appreciate what I've been given. And I've been given this temple to live in. And I've been experiencing for the past 7 months, as I do lion diet, a renovation of this temple. My temple was falling apart, and now it's being rebuilt. And it's rebuilt in its youth, and it's very invigorating. And my goodness, there's nothing I want more than to be able to offer to you the benefit of the change I've experienced. But it's so much more than just a diet. And I wanted to be able to talk to you about that some, because this part of loving yourself, that is a stoic virtue, or I don't know what's the word, mandate, principle, something like that. But I've noticed a lot of the tenets of stoicism are very biblically similar. And there are various reasons for that. But ultimately, one of the things I find about stoicism is beautiful is most of every one of their principles push you in a direction that you would go if you were studying and learning from what God told us about how to deal with things in life. And you can look up any number of videos that talk about stoic doctrines or stoic principles and get a notion for what I'm talking about here, because I found them to parallel a lot. But I've also found that some people who use some of these stoic principles will also find that instead of asking God the way God teaches us to ask and ye shall receive, knock and it will be open to you, they, instead of using God in that terminology, they just ask the universe. And for us to ignore the beauty of this creation and how everything works in such a way that it's literally miraculous, the things that happen around us and the things that happen inside of us. It's literally miraculous that eating red meat has turned me into a machine that I haven't felt like since I was very, very young. So miracles happen all the time, and we see it in things that the way life works. It's like we've been trying to ignore the way that the human body processes food because of whatever reason. But I mean, if you also study how the AHA came up with the principles that they had for saturated fats and monosaturated fats and using vegetable oils instead of animal fats, that it had very little to do with science and a lot to do with ideology. And unfortunately, when you get into the realm of ideology, you're dealing with things that don't necessarily have any basis in reality, and you have a hard time trying to live in life when you're living in a non-reality. And I don't want to attack anybody who's choosing to eat a vegetable diet or a vegan diet or anything like that. You do whatever you think is best for your body. But the fact that we have been all told for so long that we're supposed to be eating the things that, when I was eating those things, it was destroying me. And now, as I go against all of the things that have been preached to me for the last 40 years about low fat, high carb diets, that a high fat, low carb diet has been the solution. And that's simply pointing out that simply points out that the ideal that whoever came up with these notions that this is what we're supposed to be eating was wrong for me and for a lot of people who have seen the benefits of doing a similar diet. So we need to dig into what's true and what's good and recognize principles that drive us forward and cause us to be able to have enough love for ourselves to have love for one another, and to reach out and to talk to each other and to encourage your neighbor, your friend, your family members, those you come into contact with something positive, with something true that's positive, not a lie. If you tell me I don't have cancer when I have cancer, then you're not really helping me out. But if you tell me I have cancer and now I can start treating the problem, you're helping me out. So lying positive is not going to help us. We got to be able to be true with each other. But that's something that, like I say, I've been wrestling with that, because I find that my trait of neuroticism from a lifetime of whatever has caused me to have that has made it very easy for me to focus on the hating of my life in this world. And I don't want to hate my life. I don't want you to hate your life, because you can't love one another if you hate yourself. And seeking what is true is going to lead you to the real happiness. But this diet is going to make it easier, because you can overpower your flesh. And even if you're not on a spiritual journey, this diet's going to help you get some of your issues in order, I believe. But if you're not seeking the real truth, the deeper truth about things, you're going to miss the big part. And I don't want you to miss that. And I'd be remiss if I didn't talk to you about it. And I'm still searching for it. I'm not saying I've achieved any plateau in the spiritual realm, that I'm like arrived, because I am definitely a work in progress. And I think we all are. As long as we're here, whatever amount of time we've been granted on this earth, we're a work in progress. And we need to take care of our bodies so that we can let our minds cultivate the things that we need to think about, and that we can share them with each other and sharpen each other the way man sharpens man. The way iron sharpens iron, man sharpens man. So that's my talk with you today. I hope it edifies you. I'll see you tomorrow.